fellow Toastmaster. To start our webinar, let us give a round of applause. Division K Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Edralyn Paul Gascon.
Thank you, Toastmaster Nathan. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters from all around the world. Good afternoon and good evening as well. So as Division K Director, I officially open this webinar. So now let us welcome our host this morning. Let us welcome Toastmaster Rafiq Ahmed.
All right. Thank you once again, our Division K Director, Toastmaster Edralyn, and also District 75 for giving us one more opportunity to host yet another world-class speaker right here, right now, at this time. And I would like to also thank Toastmaster Edralyn for not just for today, for this episode, but for giving us Volume 1, which featured 5 episodes, and now Volume 2, which also is going to lead us somewhere where we can say that, all right, Volume 2 was better than Volume 1, or is it a continuation of Volume 1? So we're going to keep you guessing. And for those of you who are wondering, are we going to come up with Volume 3? Well, we are yet to hear that from our Division Director, Toastmaster Edralyn, but his enthusiasm and zeal will definitely bring something to the table and something to all of us to look forward to. And one more thing I wanted to mention is that the series of Stay Home Skill Up series, which is the brainchild of Division K Director, is not only to benefit Toastmasters in the Philippines and the District 75 Division K, but for Toastmasters across the world. And that is one of the reasons why our links for these events are posted outside Division and District 75 as well. So those of you joining us from across the world, welcome to one more episode. And today's episode for us, yes, I see someone waving at me. Yes, I see you too. Okay, we have today a very special speaker, and let me take this moment to actually get into the details of our guest speaker today. To begin with, let me first identify to you all our guest speaker today. At the age of 21, he could not even speak to his staff, which comprises of 4, without a massive anxiety attack. And he needed to do something about it, and he did. Our guest speaker today is Toastmaster David Nottage, the 1996 World Champion of Public Speaking as titled by Toastmasters International. He is also a certified speaking professional. He is director of Torque Limited, who specializes empowering people with amazing presentation skills. Toastmaster David has spoken at many international conferences and conventions over the past 25 years and has inspired hundreds and thousands of people to be the best they can be. In this address today, Toastmaster David will share his story of how he won the coveted title of the World Champion of Public Speaking in the year 1996. And in 1996, by surpassing approximately 30,000 people and entering the contest with 8,000 clubs, which had 69 countries involved in the contest. And among those emerges just one champion, which is our speaker today, David Nottage. Let us find out how. So help me to please welcome David Nottage.
I had a fear of heights, and I wanted to do something about that. So I read all the right motivational books, and I listened to all the right motivational tapes, and they all gave me the same 3-step strategy. In order to overcome my fear of heights, first, I must visualize the outcome. Well, I could do that. I could see things. Step number 2, I must plan the action. Well, how hard was that? We all write shopping lists. And step number 3, go out there and just do it. So, in order to overcome my fear of heights, I signed up for a tandem parachute jump where I would leap from a plane from 10,000 feet with a stranger strapped to my back. I was to float through the air with the confidence of a majestic bird in full flight. That was my vision. I would get into a plane, go up 10,000 feet, jump out, and try not to die. That was the plan. And when the day came to finally go out there and just do it, that was nothing like what actually happened. When I got to the aerodrome, the first thing I saw was their motto written on the side. If at first you don't succeed, don't jump out of the plane. Good motto. I went in, got my outfit. You can't jump in anything. You've got to look the part. That's part of the vision. So they gave me my one-piece outfit. It was bright pink. It was the brightest pink you've ever seen. And I looked at the guy and said, what's with the bright color? And he looked back at me and said, oh, well, if something goes wrong from 10,000 feet, you're easier to spot on the ground. Brilliant. The next piece of equipment he gave me was a soft leather helmet, you know, like the pilots used to wear in the First World War. And they're putting on this soft leather helmet, and I chuckled to myself. And I asked the man, tell me, if something goes wrong from 10,000 feet, what good is a soft leather helmet going to do for me? To which he replied, well, if something goes wrong from 10,000 feet, what sort of helmet did you want? Good point. It was a very good point. And the last piece of equipment was a pair of goggles with the elastic back, you know, one size fits all, just like the swimmers wear. And so as I put this over my helmet, it sort of picks up at my nose like this. And I appreciate this is not a good look for you. But as I looked into the mirror and compared what I saw to that, which I had visualized, I knew it was going to be a pretty bad day. But then it was off to the plane to receive my instructions. This was critical to step number 2, the plan. We got on the plane and the instructor told me that when we reached a certain height, he would move in behind and connect his harness to mine. Then we would make our way gracefully to the door of the plane. Once at the door of the plane, he would tap me on the shoulder once. That was my signal to look at the camera that was fixed underneath the wing of the plane so that we could get a photo of this heroic leap. A second tap on the shoulder would be my cue to jump out of the plane and do the banana. The banana. That's where you arch your body back, head back, arms and legs like such, so that you plummet face first. Now, according to my plan, there had been no mention whatsoever of fashion photography or imitating fruit of any description. So I asked the man, I said, look, tell me, once we leave the plane, if something does go wrong, how much time do we have to get it right? And I'll never forget his 5-word response. He simply said, the rest of your life. Keep the money. I said, look, keep the money, keep the outfit. I'm going to find another way to overcome my fear of heights. But it was too late, too late. The plane was already taxiing along. And then we were off. We were doing it. Step number 3. By the time we reached 3,000 feet, I was cool. I was calm. I was quite impressed with myself. By the time we reached 5,000 feet, there were smells in the plane that had not been there at takeoff. That was me. I was scared. By the time I reached 7,000 feet, I was petrified. I had totally forgotten what piece of fruit I was supposed to be imitating. Was it tomato? Was it pineapple? What was it? Squash. It wasn't squash. I know it wasn't squash. We get to 9,000 feet. He puts his harness, click, 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 straps into me, puts me into a full headlock and drags me screaming to the door of the plane. I try to visualize, but it's no good. The goggles had fogged up. Even my eyeballs were perspiring. I tried to remember the piece of fruit, but that turned into fruit salad. Was it grapes? Was it kiwi fruit? Wasn't squash. I know it wasn't squash. We get to the door of the frame. My heart is pounding away. He taps me on the shoulder once. What? Click, damn, I missed the photo. He taps me a second time. Banana! And he said that was the best banana he'd ever seen. I said, thank you very much. He said, do you want to get out of the plane and do it? Not really. But he pushed, and there we were, out of the plane. Ladies and gentlemen, the view from 10,000 feet, the panoramic vista stretches for miles. Apparently, I have no idea. I saw none of it. All I could see was my top lip flapping on the goggles. Hey, 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 hey. After 5,000 feet of free fall, he pulls the chute, woof, woof, and there we are, floating down for the last 5,000 feet. Now, I've got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the view was fantastic. It was breathtaking. And there was no fear of heights. And as I made my way down that last 5,000 feet, I had a chance to reflect on the whole process. Number one, I had visualized doing this. I know I didn't look like a confident bird in full flight, but that didn't matter. Inside, I felt like one. Step number two, the plan. I had planned this. Sure, nobody mentioned anything about imitating fruit or fashion photography or getting dressed up in pink suits, but that's okay. As those situations arose, I built them into my plan. So my plan did work. And here I am, doing it. And when I touched down on Mother Earth, I gave out a huge, yes, I've done it. I'll never do it again, but I've done it. Now, I doubt, ladies and gentlemen, if I've just convinced any of you to do a tandem parachute jump from 10,000 feet. But that's okay. We're all Toastmasters. Maybe you've come across this process before. You know those processes. We do need to visualize what we want to achieve. Make those visions big. That would be my biggest offering to you. Plan the steps and be aware that there are things that life's going to throw at you that you can't possibly foresee, but have a bit of faith in yourself that you can and will manage whatever life throws at you, and you will build it into your plan. And then you will be doing step three, doing it. And that's what we're here for. That's the purpose of life, to do it. So ladies and gentlemen, no matter how many goals you set in your life, no matter how high you aspire, can I encourage you, get out there and take that flying leap. Yep. And ladies and gentlemen, that was one of the two speeches I used to win the 1996 World Championship of Public Speaking. Did you like it? I'm going to turn my chat on so I can actually see you. Chat. There we go. Excellent. Good to see you all. I should make this rather formal. Division K Director, Edralin Paul Gascon, DTM, distinguished guests, fellow Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, Kamustapo. And from my beautiful city of Auckland in New Zealand, I would say to you, kia ora, which is welcome in these troubling times. I hope that you and your family and everyone that's dear to you are safe and well. So the question, oh, and also thank you very much to Rafiq for your fantastic introduction. That was wonderful. I appreciated it enormously. So why did I want to win the World Championship of Public Speaking? Well, quite frankly, I didn't. I didn't. As you heard Rafiq say, Toastmaster Rafiq say, at the age of 21, I was a supermarket manager in a very small country town called Naracoorte, which is close to the outback of South Australia, because way back then I was an Australian, but let's not tell anyone. And nothing happened in Naracoorte that was exciting. It was one of those dozy little towns. The only time people got excited in Naracoorte was when the train came through town. And that's because Naracoorte doesn't have any railway tracks. So you would get excited if a train came through your town. I was a supermarket. I was the manager of a supermarket. I had 4 staff, and I kid you not, I was terrified, absolutely terrified of public speaking. And every morning it was my job to stand up and talk to the staff. And it'd go something like this. You can go to the checkout. You're in the storeroom. Whatever. I couldn't do it. So that's why I joined Toastmasters. And I remember I spoke to the guy, the president. I met him and I told him my problems. And he said, look, David, I tell you what, you come along to our Toastmasters meeting. We meet Friday nights in the small room at the back of the pub. There's only one pub in Narracourt. Oh, and well, we'll get you to stand up and introduce yourself for 5 minutes. And you know this, it's the icebreaker. So I thought, well, how hard can that be? So I did no preparation, no practice, nothing. Friday morning comes round and all of a sudden I can feel things have happened to my body. My stomach had shriveled and dropped. I tried to think of what I might be able to say for 5 minutes. I couldn't think of 5 seconds. Lunchtime came and lunchtime went, but I didn't speak. I didn't even eat because I just wasn't hungry. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the only thing keeping me upright was I had one of my trolleys, my shopping trolleys, and I was trying to keep upright by using one of those. That's how I made it to the pub. I walked into the room at 7 o'clock for the Toastmasters meeting in this very small country town. And that was the night they decided to invite every human being in the state of South Australia to come to the meeting. That was packed. There was 8 people there. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but to me, that was a huge number. I couldn't speak to 4 people, so 8 was going to be a disaster. I sat down and I started listening to them having their meeting. And then at one stage, the president stood up and said, well, now our next speaker will be our newest member. His name's David, and he's from the supermarket. He's going to do his 5-minute icebreaker. Please welcome David. And someone started to clap. That was me. How embarrassing. I thought that everyone would clap, but no, they only clapped them on the way down. They didn't clap them on the way up in this club. So I get up to the front and I kid you not, I had to spread my feet. I leant back onto the wall. There was a wall behind me. I leant back onto the wall, pushed myself off the wall. And this is where I made my first big mistake as a Toastmaster. I tried to speak and it came out a little bit like this. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen. And it was then that I realized that I had no saliva in my mouth whatsoever. My tongue had stuck to the roof of my mouth. And that's when I made my second biggest mistake. I went for the glass of water to do something about that. And I was shaking so violently, I baptized the entire 8 members of the club. Apparently, 5 minutes later, I was finished. I knew that because now they were clapping, albeit together and in time, never a good sound. I took my seat and that was it. Now, I know our friends in Toastmasters would know this, but if there are any of our friends who are not in a Toastmasters club, what happens next is when you speak, somebody else has to stand up and find something nice to say about what you've just done. And I've got to tell you, the guy that stood up and was my evaluator, he was very gifted because I didn't give him a lot to work with. He stood up and said, David, I'd like to commend you on 3 things. First and foremost, I'd like to commend you on your choice of language. English was the ideal language with which to give your maiden speech. The second thing, David, is your breathing technique. The way you got all that air in at the start and the way you got rid of it at the end, which was novel, but we get that a bit here at Toastmasters. And the third thing I'd like to commend you on is you only had 1 and 2 in the entire 5 minutes. And for those who aren't Toastmasters, I think you can appreciate that they're very fussy about how many times you say and how you say and you're supposed to keep them to a minimum. So he said you only had 1 and 2 Granted, they took the entire 5 minutes, but you only had 3. So without too much exaggeration, that's how I started my Toastmastering career. And if you wanted to go back in time and meet me outside that pub and say, hey, do you realize that in 1996, you're going to stand up in front of 2,000 people and you're going to become the world champion of public speaking? Well, I would have wanted whatever you were drinking, because I've got to tell you, that was not the truth. So how do we do it? And I know you've listened to some fantastic world champions already. I know that you've listened to Craig Valentine, our 99 world champion. I could listen to Craig tell stories all day long and I just would not get bored. He is a master at telling stories. And Mark Brown, you heard Mark Brown. Mark, the 1995 winner, is such a gentleman, such a lovely man. He was the first man to come running up to me when I was announced the winner to congratulate me way back in 96. He's truly amazing. And I loved what he told us, and he shared with us about where do we find our stories. I wonder if you can remember. He gave us a great little clue. What was the best, the worst, the last, and the first. And I thought that was just an amazing piece of sharing that he undertook. And Kwong, I don't know if you're with us today, but it was fantastic to listen to you. Gee whiz, you are a really good speaker. And you're right, it's not just about the winning, because if we were there just to win, I don't think we would do it for very long. It's about crafting it for your audience, not crafting it, as you said so cleverly, Kwong, don't craft it just to put ticks in the boxes. So some great advice from some great speakers. And I'd like to share some ideas with you if that's okay. I'm going to share a screen with you, and I wonder, I'm going to do a bit of a poll. Let me share the screen. That's the screen there, and I'm going to share it. If I'm not mistaken, you should be looking at our title, To Be the Best You Can. I have a question for you. And my question is, what do you think is the greatest fear to the human race? This is a survey done in 2014. I've listed the 10 top answers. These are the top 10 answers on your screen. And I wonder if you could type in the one in the chat. Which one do you think is number one? And I'll be looking at chat. I'll give you about a few seconds. Type in what you think is number one. I've got someone who's written failure, a couple have written failure. Thanks, Rafi. I hope there's more than two of you out there. Rejection, I know that from experience, yeah? So no, I don't know you that well, but no, rejection. Pain, that's the one I picked. Got some bad news for you later. Well done. Rejection. Death. Oh, death. Snakes and spiders in Australia. Yes, you're absolutely right. I love Australia. I was born there, but to be honest with you, they've got so many things on that continent that can kill you. It's not funny. Crocodiles, snakes, spiders, jellyfish, kangaroos, they can all kill you. Loneliness. Oh, COVID. COVID's not even on the list. But if there was an 11th one, maybe that. Public speaking, that's not on the list either, Jeff, but good on you. The unknown. Okay, all right, then well done, team. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll just tell you that the number one is, you might want to do a drum roll for this. The number one fear to the human race is, and always will be by far, the fear of failure. The fear of failure. And I'm just potting up there the rest of them where they placed. And you can see that death came in at number 2. Pain, which I picked, that was the one I did pick. That was number 8. And of course, the unknown was number 9. Someone actually asked me once when we were doing this, and they said, David, what is the unknown? Well, that would make it the known, wouldn't it? So whatever. The fear of failure, team, is one of the big driving factors in what we do. And as somebody did write, public speaking falls under this one. We're scared that we're going to fail. And if I just move away from that and stop sharing the screen, we're fearful that we're going to fail. I'm going to stand up in front of you and I may make a fool of myself. And that's going to cost me a lot in terms of my ego. And we're very protective of our ego. We love to look good. And of course, if we stand up and speak and we get it wrong, so many people will see us do it. So what can we do about this fear of failure? Back to the screen. And back to the screen, he said. There's the share button. There's the screen and share. The man you're looking at is Dr. Walter Bradford Cannon, a very clever man. He's the guy that coined the phrase, the flight and fight. And I'm pretty sure most of our friends, put yes in the box if you know about this, but have you heard of the flight and fight response? It's pretty well known. Yep, someone was, you're pleased you got it right, Rafiq. Well done. Yep. For our friends who don't know, what the flight and fight response is that when we get scared and get nervous because we might fail in front of people, our body's going to change in over 200 physiological ways. And when I say physiological, a lot of those ways are what you would experience as nervousness. And you can see just up on the screen, just some of them. Like, for example, some people will go red in the face. A lot of people get very nervous and fidget. Some people get a high voice or a crackly voice. A lot of people touch their face. I can tell you now, try not to touch your face. Don't touch your face. We don't trust people that touch their face when they speak to us. So keep your hands away from your face. People find it very hard to make eye contact. They'll look up, they'll look down, but they won't look people in the eye. So maybe you've seen some of these things. If we had more time, I'd get you to jot down what are the ones that affect you, and we'd actually go into how or why that they affect you. It's really quite fascinating. But to give you the shortcut, the reason your body goes through this process, and one, it's very natural, and two, it's designed to save you. So it's a good thing that it happens. But what's going to happen is your body's going to try and get a lot of blood into your arms for fighting, into your legs for running, and into your face for using your 5 senses: what you can see, what you can hear, smell, taste, and touch. So that's what's happening to the body, and it does it very quickly. The trouble is, it makes us look bad. And if you can see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, the biggest one, the mind goes blank. And I'm sure that, just like me, you've enjoyed that experience on more than one occasion, where the mind just goes. So what can we do? What are we doing when we prepare for our presentations and our speeches? Are you doing something to address this issue? And I'd like to give you a couple of ideas around that, because if we can be more confident, if we can reduce that, we make ourselves more confident. And that's what I'd like to share with you. Breathing. I'm going to teach you how to breathe. It's called diaphragmatic breathing. And if you can, you'll need to stand up to do this one, team. So obviously I can't see you, but if you, wherever you are, if you've got room, if you can, without causing yourself any concern or embarrassment, I need you to stand up. What you're going to do, when we get nervous, everyone tells us the same thing. Take a deep breath. And this is what most people do. Okay, David, I'll take a deep breath. And we breathe high into our chest, and our chest comes out, and our shoulders rise and fall with each breath. I'll do it again. Here is a nervous, deep breath. Diaphragmatic breathing is when you pull that breath all the way down. So you can take a big breath, your tummy will pop out, and your chest will stay still. That's what you need to try. Put one hand on your chest, one on your tummy, take a big breath and see if you can make the hand on your chest stay still and the hand on your tummy move. Now, if you're doing it right, what's going to happen is you're going to, your shoulders won't go up and down. You're just going to be able to breathe like so. So you can grab a seat now. If you can do 3 of those breaths, that'll be great. That'll oxygenate your muscle groups and your senses. And if you've done it right, you're going to calm down a lot. The second thing we're going to get you to do is to drop some of that energy. When we go into flight and fight mode, the body's going to store up the energy to either spring away from an attack, or if we must, launch an attack. And that's why you'll get a lot of tension in your body. And that tension is going to leach out of you, and it's going to make you do some really silly things. It's going to change your voice, give you quivers, make you fiddle with your hands and your feet. All of that makes us look remarkably nervous, obviously. So let's do what our sports people do. And I'm sure you've seen what our sports people do. Beforehand, they're shaking it out. They jump up and down, shake out that nervous energy. That's so that they can, wow, my slideshow is getting ahead of me. That's so that they can actually drop some of that energy. It's going to interfere with their performance. And we need to do the same thing. Now, I know you're very intelligent people, because you wouldn't be in Toastmasters if you weren't. You know that when I tell you to do the breathing and to shake it out, you know that you don't do it in front of the audience, do you? I mean, you know that. You know, ladies and gentlemen, our next contestant is David Nottage. No. Maybe go to the bathroom, take care of it at the bathroom, maybe go a walk around the building, walk up and down a flight of stairs, but drop that energy. And the third point, and I think it's absolutely fantastic and vital, is to have positive affirmations. Now, the affirmation you're looking at the moment, of course, is none other than the greatest boxer of all time, Muhammad Ali. And he was famous for saying these lines: I am the greatest. I am the greatest. Now, I am the greatest follows the 3P principle of affirmations. Now, the 3Ps, whenever you say an affirmation, they must be personal. You will start with the word I. That's personal. You're talking to yourself. They must be in the present tense. I am. And the third, they must be positive. I am confident. I am dynamic. So can I suggest that you have some affirmations for yourself? Make sure that you don't put them in the future. Don't say, I will be this, or I can do that. No. It's usually I am. And please don't phrase it in the negative. Don't say, I am not going to get nervous. I am not going to forget my lines. They're phrased in the negative. Have positive affirmations for yourself. Your positive affirmations will be very personal. You won't share them with anyone. You'll take some of your affirmations to your grave with you, and may that be after a very long, happy, and healthy life. Couple of affirmations I use every day. I say, I am the world's greatest dad every day. I've been saying it for 21 years and so many months. I am the world's greatest dad. Am I? You know, I've got my daughter in the room at the moment. I don't know if she'd agree that I'm the greatest dad in the world, but I get a chance every day to make it as good as I can. Another affirmation, I am financially independent. Am I? Nope. If I was, I wouldn't need the affirmation. Some affirmations I no longer need. Here's one. I'll show you this. This is a picture taken out of my bedroom window. That's because for many years I told myself I can see the sea, I can hear the sea, I can smell the sea. So this is a picture taken out of my bedroom window. I look out at a beautiful harbour. It's the harbour that's the other part of the harbour that you can see here on the other side. It's just truly a fantastic place to be. Another affirmation I no longer use. For many years, for 4 years, 1 week and 2 days, I used to say, I am the world champion of public speaking. I said that the day I started that was the day I came third in the 1992 inter-district competition in Las Vegas. And I was so gutted that I made it to third place in the inter-district. And I thought, I can come back and do this. And that was the first time I ever used an affirmation. And I said, I am the world champion of public speaking. And I said it for 4 years, 1 week and 2 days before 1999 when I won it. And the day that I won it was the last day that I said that affirmation. On the screen now, I'm sure you must know Mr. Mandela. I'm just trying to get my screen back. I seem to have lost all my people. There it is there. Mr. Mandela, incarcerated for 27 years. He really found a fantastic poem called Invictus. I don't know if you saw the movie Invictus, but Invictus itself is a poem. And have a look at the last 2 lines of this poem. This is the poem that Mandela told himself every day, several times a day. The last verse of the poem goes, it matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And maybe that's what you've got to do if you want to become someone to free a country from apartheid. Just to finish off on those affirmations, how old was Muhammad Ali when he started to say, I am the greatest? He wasn't Muhammad Ali at all. His name was Cassius Clay Jr. He was 15 years old and he was learning how to box. He wasn't saying I will be, he was saying I am. So in terms of this whole nervousness, if I may, I'll stop sharing that screen. Right. There we go. So if I may, just to recap, we are going to get nervous. I still get nervous. I still do exactly what I've just mentioned to you. I make sure I do that diaphragmatic breathing. I make sure I drop that energy, and I have my affirmations, and I'd encourage you to do the same. Something I've just recently learned, and I don't mind sharing it with you, every morning when you wake up, one of the first things you should do is punch the air 3 times with the word yes. Yes, yes, yes. Why don't you try that right now? Now, this is going to cause some of you grief. You need to do it loud. Yes, yes, yes. I can't hear a thing. Do it one more time. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
Well, of course, you didn't have to unmute yourself. 1,000 people, yes. And that empowers you, gives you more energy. Try that every morning and see if it just doesn't put you in a better place to have your attitude. I find it quite amazing. So that's a little bit around how I was confident enough to win the World Championship and how I stay confident whenever I have to do anything, if it's to do with public speaking or if it's to do with my business or my family. I still use the same techniques, and if they worked for me, they're going to work for you as well. So can I encourage you to have some strategies around to be the best that you can be in regards to having great confidence. How did my journey go? Well, from narrow court, it took a lot of practice, a lot of exactly what you do every time we go to a Toastmasters club. I practice where I put my hands. I practice to pause. I practice not to say and I practice to try and have eye contact, and that's not easy nowadays, given the fact that it's a small camera. We just go back and we keep on practicing and we get good at it. Why? Why is it important to be the best that we can be? I think it's super important, if for no other reason than the fact that we've got something to say. And that would be my challenge to all of our Toastmaster friends. Why are you in Toastmasters? Why do you want to be able to stand up and speak? Is it because you just want to stand up and speak? Or is it because you've got something to do, something that needs to be said? Is it something that needs to be said at your schools or in your communities, in your governments and in your councils, in your workplaces? We need confident people to stand up and say what needs to be said. If we look around the world leadership at the moment, there are some people, I think, that are displaying appalling traits as leaders, and their communication skills are appalling. Let's not be like them. Let's be those brave and confident people who want to be the best that we can be, so that when we have any opportunity to be a leader in our communities, in our countries, then we can be making a real positive difference. And that's why I think we are in Toastmasters, not just to get good at speaking, but to do something with it. So once again, I would love to thank Adrenaline Paul Gaskin, your Division K Director, for the invitation to be here. I'd love to thank Rafiq again for your introduction. But please try and use some of these tips, techniques and tricks, not just from me, but from the likes of Craig Valentine and Mark Brown and from Kwong, and improve your presence and improve your presentations and make a difference. Be the best that you can be. And I wish you every success. So thank you very much. And I believe the appropriate thing for me to say is pa'alam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toastmaster David, for being I would say, in character by greeting us and also ending your presentation with the Tagalog word paalam, which is goodbye. Thank you so much for that. All right. Excellent. I think the best words to describe what we just heard is you are actually a powerhouse of energy, I would say, powerhouse of gestures, and I think a power-packed speaker. I think those are the right words to describe, if I may borrow it from some of our
You're
audience.
very kind.
You. And one more thing I noticed is that we've had until now 4 champion speakers who have joined us from Australia. So that makes 4 of you, which is Toastmaster Jock Elliott, Toastmaster
Yes,
Mark
Jock.
Hunter, Toastmaster Kwong, and yourself. So you are number 4, joining us also from Australia. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate your commitment, and we love Australian speakers. And coming to think of it, probably Australia has got I mean, other than US, you would say the highest number of world champion of public speakings to be crowned in Toastmasters International. So it's a
No,
great
you're very
honor to
kind.
have you, Toastmaster David. And we
Thanks,
love
Rafiq, but I must correct you. I was born in Australia. I am 110% New Zealand and very
Oh.
proud to be a Kiwi.
Okay, we will give you that. We'll let you retain that. So you were born in Australia. So we've got 3 speakers joining from Australia and 1 who was born in Australia.
Correct.
All right. Thank you so much for that, sir. Okay.
Excellent.
Now, as we always do, we will now dive into our Q&A session. So the chat box is open for all of you. I'm going to quickly take a look if anyone of you have posted any questions to me, which I suppose yes. And while I do so, also, Toastmaster David, I'd just like to quickly read out a couple of comments that are coming in from our audience just for you. Toastmaster Gina is excited for your presentation. She said she's been laughing all through. And Toastmaster Tess says, fantabulous speech, David. You're a world-class speaker. We've got Toastmaster Lourdes saying, great, bravo. You've got bravo coming from Toastmaster Rez. And you've got loved it coming from me. I don't know if you noticed that. All right.
Thank you.
And you've got Toastmaster Gina says, I am learning to evaluate. Thank you so much. We've got Toastmaster Mark says, superlative, I have enjoyed to the fullest. You've got so many other coming in. I'm just reading a few out, so you know we can acknowledge those who have put in their words to congratulate you. Toastmaster Gina says, I totally agree with you, David, on turning around and using our Toastmasters training to say what needs to be said. So some lovely comments coming
Very
in.
powerful. There is. Rafiq, if I may, the person who mentioned about learning how to evaluate, if I could share another quick technique or tip, because I know we do the commend, recommend, commend version, something that I find works very well, and it actually is very similar to what Mark Brown told us all with the best, the worst, the last, the first. Whenever I'm evaluating someone, I use 4 words as well, and your friends might, your members might want to just write these 4 words down, and they are, what are they? More, better, different, less. More, better, different, less. And whenever you're looking at someone, an evaluation, to give an evaluation, or whenever you're looking at yourself, because you've recorded yourself and you're looking at yourself and giving yourself feedback, work out what you can do in those 4 areas. What can you do more of? What can you do better? What can you do differently? And what needs to be done less? And I think you'll find that it just gives you quite a few ideas about how you can make very positive changes to your technique, or if you're giving people feedback, it greatly helps them or identifying where they need to work on.
Wow, I think you just gave us a bonus there, more than what we actually we came here for. So that is a good technique for evaluation. Thank you so much again, Toastmaster David. All right, thank you. And I would now like to request our first reactor who will give you or give us his feedback on how he received this entire webinar, and also kickstart the Q&A session with the first question. To do so, we have with us Toastmaster Ronald Campus. Please, if you can identify yourself and unmute yourself, and please go ahead with your feedback and questions.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Ronald.
Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are, and the rest of the participants. I must confess, David, that 80% while watching your webinar, I was really laughing.
Oh, good.
And rightly so, because I really enjoyed your webinar. If you notice, this is a different kind of webinar because most of the time we watch how the resource speaker tell us about techniques in storytelling, techniques in how to captivate the audience and so on and so forth, how to write a good speech. But this time, David, it's different because you taught us on the aspect of the psychological aspect of the game. Because I believe that's really true. It would really affect your psychological makeup affects the way you deliver your speech, especially on competitions like world champion public speakers. So I love the way you handle the webinar, and I love if I have to summarize the fears, no, the 10 fears that you mentioned that we need to hurdle. In fact, I can really relate it. Failure is number one of mine because we studied from primary, secondary, and high school and college, and yet we always have this fear of failure. The greatest fear in my life, if I can recall, is my failure to, if I fail in the bar examinations for lawyers, because I'm a lawyer by profession. So I can relate your feelings when I first stare at the questionnaire of the bar exam. So I almost died. I almost collapsed. So, but I didn't have that technique yet. I have not watched your webinar yet. So I'm glad that you are bringing this up. And so, but your webinar also give us an anecdote on how to face your fears. And of course, you're talking about this affirmation, deep breathing, and so on and so forth. So I really love your way of sharing your experience. My question is, at what particular stage of your membership of the Toastmasters that you realize that you have what it takes to join a competition like the World Championship of Public Speaking, considering that you were really struggling from the very start. You have this fear, you stutter a lot, and how did you convince yourself to join the contest and even won? Thank you very much.
Ronald, thank you so much, and thank you for your very kind words as well. I'm glad that you did enjoy it and you got so much out of the presentation. Thank you. Yes, when did I realize that I wanted to be the world champion? I didn't. As life so often does, I found myself here in New Zealand. I finished up in Australia and came to New Zealand when I was 27 years old. And the first thing I did was join a Toastmasters club so that I could have some sort of network, friends, something I knew a lot about. I started joining competitions in New Zealand and had some success. And I'd win different competitions. I'd lose more competitions, but win some. And I got to the stage where I had one of those visions. I did have one of those visions. And this is going way back to 1991, 1992. And my vision was to become the best speaker in New Zealand. And that was one of my first affirmations, to be the best speaker in New Zealand. And sure enough, that year, I won the international speech competition for New Zealand. It was then known as District 72. I didn't even know there was a world champion competition. I remember my district governor coming up to me and saying, "Congratulations, David, you are our district winner. You will be going to the United States to compete against other inter-districts. You are to win that inter-district competition and go into the World Championship." So that's how I found out about the World Championship. And I thought, oh, that's great. I'll do that. I'll go across. And in 1992, it was in Las Vegas. So I went to Las Vegas and I gave that speech. No, I gave a different speech. I got a totally different speech. I gave a very somber speech. It was very sad. It wasn't funny at all. And that's where I came third. I came third in the inter-district in Las Vegas. And I'm standing up there and the guy says, "And so in third place, it's Stephen Nottage from New Zealand." And I was so disappointed. I'd made it all this way over here. And apparently that was the end of it. And that's when I thought, well, wait a minute, I could come back. These people are very good. They're very good speakers, but they're not that good that they can't be beaten. And that's when I decided to have my correct affirmation. I am the world champion of public speaking. And that's the day it started for me. And it took 4 years, 1 week and 2 days to get to 1996 to become that world champion. So the short answer to the question, when did I realize I could? After losing the Interdistrict in Las Vegas, I thought, yep, I could come back.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Rolando, and thank you, David. Well, David, we've got a couple of questions on our Facebook Live page, but I'm going to be a bully because, you know, I'm having the floor with the world champion up close and personal. So I have my own question. So, you know, I'm going to be a bully and ask you my question first. All right, this one is a little personal, and I really don't know if this is true. So you've got to help us break the myth. I get to hear this rumor that Toastmaster David Nottage, the world champion of public speaking, actually forgot his world championship speech at the finals. But because of your speaking skills, you made it look like no one, you made it look to us in a way that we didn't even notice that you forgot your speech. Is this a rumor or is it true?
No, Rafiq, thank you very much for the question. And unfortunately, it is very true. Halfway, the speech I gave at the start, which was the parachute speech, or they call it the banana speech, that speech never got recorded. They had technical issues, and that's why I use that speech a lot more. That's the speech I used at the Interdistrict to get myself into the World Championship. Remember, back in those days, you had to do 4 speeches in your own country, then the Interdistrict, then the World Championship. So that was the Interdistrict competition that I used the parachute speech. When I got into the World Championship, I only had 5 days to get ready because the Interdistrict finished, I won it, and in 5 days' time would be the World Championship. And I've always said that, and I love our American friends, and they're brilliant and beautiful people. But I've always thought it's been a bit strange because back in my day, there were 9 speakers in the World Championship. 8 of them came from North America, including Canada. And they all got 2 months to get ready for the World Championship. Whoever won from our district only got 5 days to get ready. And I always thought that was a bit of a disadvantage. But nonetheless, I loaded up the speech. It was a very powerful speech. You can see it on my website. It's a very young version of David Nottage on my website who gives the World Championship speech. And halfway through it, the mind just went blank. And I'm thinking, well, you idiot, you've just forgotten the words to your speech. And your 2,000 people are looking at you. And I don't know how I did it, or it was just the enormous amount of practice and preparation, but I just opened my mouth and started talking about something. And within half a sentence, I jumped back onto what I was supposed to be saying. And so mercifully, 2,000 people, including those 20 judges, How many judges were there? 18, including the 18 judges. None of them knew that I just had a hell of a moment in my brain. So good question. Thank you, Rafiq.
All right, excellent. All right, I'm going to now not be a bully and allow other questions to be brought forward. Okay, we've got one question coming in on our Facebook page, and I would like to quickly quote it. This one's coming from Toastmaster Elisa Ray. Her question is, David, I was there in St. Louis when you won. My question is, how do you keep your enthusiasm through all these years?
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much, Elise. And great to know that you were in the audience when I was there. That's the good thing about getting nervous. I think you'll find that when we get nervous and we have that adrenaline pulsating through our body, that it gives you that energy. And I think that's a huge thing. That's why I try and get people, when I train them, not to over-practice it. Don't over-practice your presentation. Some people say, David, you can practice too much. I've never met somebody who can practice too much, but don't try and remember your presentation word for word, because I think it's really stilts your energy when you're giving it, because we can see you trying to remember what comes next. Having said that, if I was training you for the World Championship, I would train you to memorize every single word. And I do know that back in 1996, I could actually recite that parachute speech backwards. I could start with the last word and go all the way backwards to the first word. That's how much I'd practiced it. But that's only for world championship speeches. I don't know. I didn't hear what Kwong had to say about that. I don't know if he does the same as I did.
Okay, excellent. We've got another question in, Toastmaster David. This one's coming in from district, one of the leaders in District 75, distinguished Toastmaster Nomel. He says, David, what exercises can we do to develop vocal variety to match like yours?
To have vocal variety to match like mine, what can you do? Yes, good question. And greetings. You've got to play with your voice. And when I do my training courses and I train people, we do some very silly things. And people get embarrassed. Oh, I'm not going to do that. The best thing that you can do is tell bedtime stories to children, your own children. Don't go taking children, and you know, you've got to be your own kids. Because when you read them a story, you do, don't you? And once upon a time, there was 3 bears. There was a big daddy bear, a mummy bear, and a little baby bear. And you bring that story to life with your voice for your children. And if you don't have any children, maybe adopt one or something. But that's a great way of practicing. Practicing your clubs. I always tell my Toastmaster friends, when you're giving a speech in a club, make sure your loud is louder. Make sure your soft is softer. Make sure your slow is even slower. And make sure your fast is usually about okay. But exaggerate those 4 areas. It's not going to change unless you try something different. And if you exaggerate, same with your body language, be big with your body. Most people have short and small body language. Be big, practice large. And on the day, you'll pull back, but you'll still be bigger than normal. And that's a huge asset.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Toastmaster David, once again. We have another question on the Facebook Live. This one's coming in from Toastmaster Sumit Puri. I mean, this is probably a general question. I'll leave it to you to answer it or not. He says, how do we save ourselves from rejection?
How do we save ourselves from rejection? Good question. I think we do have to develop a rather thick skin. I don't know if you have that saying in the Philippines, where you know you're not going to please everyone all the time. So just be aware of it. And I tell you what's going to help you a lot, and that's watching yourself a lot on the screen. And what better opportunity than now that we're all doing this sort of communicating? You can record it and you can look at yourself. And don't try and be perfect. I'm pretty sure that was Craig Valentine told us that, didn't he? Don't try and be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. We don't like people who are perfect. We like people who are real, authentic, natural. And if that means sometimes you put your hands on your hip or scratch your head or pull a face or look away from the audience, that just makes you human. And I think that that's a good thing. And if you can learn to love the person in the mirror, then rejection's not so bad. I know it still can hurt, but I think you'll cope with it even better.
Excellent.
I should have become a psychiatrist, shouldn't I?
Yeah, that's why I let that one for you to decide whether you want to answer it. All right, I've got another question coming in. Someone would like to ask you this. They said, what is your opinion about different accents when it comes to public speaking?
Different actions, body language actions, do you think they mean?
Accent, actually, accent of your...
Oh, accents.
Yeah.
Different accents. Well, I would agree. I would say that having an accent is a plus to most people when they speak. I'm not an expert in the area, but I do know that certain accents appeal to certain other cultures. For example, in Australia and New Zealand, we love the sound of the European accents, like the French. I can talk like this, and you can listen to a French person all day long, and oh, it's magnifique, right then. But if I talk to an American who talks like that all the time, oh, it just doesn't do the same thing for me. So I don't know why we like certain accents. It depends where you're born, what your culture is, and what accents work well for you. But normally having an accent in a competition is a good thing. It is a point of difference. Just make sure you're using it to your best advantage.
All right, wonderful. I think some of our viewers are camera shy, so I haven't had anyone coming up and saying, I would like to ask the question directly. So I'm just posting the questions on their behalf. I do have one more question.
Rafik, please.
And before we end, or probably I let you do the closing remarks. Now, what happens is, most of the time, if you look at it, people that do reach the world championship are, in the past, it used to be that they are all native speakers, right, who have English as their first language. But that has been broken now. The last couple of years, you see a lot of non-native speakers winning the world championships. Now, here's my question to you. Now, do you think that being a native speaker or a non-native speaker does have any influence over the audience at the World Championship stage? Does it have an influence? Does it give you a minus? Does it go against you or does it go with you, being a native speaker or a non-native speaker?
I would love to tell you that it shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. But I think we all know in the real world, it can have a difference. And therefore, and I cannot speak more than one language. I only speak English. So I always take my hat off, always amazed at people who are multilingual, who are bilingual. I think it's just incredible how they can do that. If you're going to give a presentation in a foreign language, not your mother tongue, then I think you really do need to work on articulation, the articulation of the words, so that the clarity is there. That, I think, would be a huge thing. So unfortunately, I think it is a slight disadvantage. But if you really go the extra mile, really put in the effort and have fantastic articulation, wow, I think that just speaks volumes. And I think that becomes a real plus for you. But I can only imagine it must be huge work for the individual.
Okay. One more thing, David. I'm sorry, I've got a lot of questions actually.
No, it's fine.
Right. Okay, this one's coming in from, one moment, I'm just getting it on the chat box here. This one is coming in from, let me see, who is this? Toastmaster David. Toastmaster David, who is this? Okay, this one's coming in from Toastmaster Lata Murugesan. Toastmaster Lata says, that's Lata Murugesan, and Toastmaster Lata says, thank you, David. What would be a quick tip for the nervousness during the start of the presentation?
Yes, Lata. What is a quick tip for the start of the presentation? You may notice when I started, I always start with big movements, huge movements. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Anything that's big. Because if I try, I've got a lot of nervous energy in my body. And if I try to do a small gesture or a small piece of body language, it's going to show that I'm nervous. But if I'm bigger than life, then after about a minute, all that energy is gone. So I would encourage you to craft your opening so that you've got movement quite deliberately. Don't try and hold something. Like, don't say, for one fear that you cannot, because we're going to try and be big. That'd be the best way of handling it. And don't forget, you're going to bounce up on that stage. Don't just creep up there. Come up on there. Drop that energy on the way up. Have a smile on your face. Never start with an apology. Oh, we know this. Look, I'm sorry that you've probably heard this before, but no, I'm not that good at public speaking. Really? No apologies.
All right. We've got one question coming in. I would like to ask this attendee to identify himself and ask the question directly. This is Toastmaster Rez Gade. Toastmaster Rez Gade, if you can hear me, go ahead and unmute yourself and direct your question to our speaker. Okay, calling once. Calling twice. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Toastmaster Rez Gade is asking you, he says, what type of humor do you think can come across? I mean, I think I'll rephrase the question. What he's probably trying to ask is that what kind of humor do you think can be acceptable by all cultures?
What sort of humor can be acceptable by all cultures? I think that should be self-deprecating humor. So you are the fall guy, you're the joke, you're the one that has the mistake, you're the one that made the bad decision, whatever. So it's on you and not on someone else. So in my speech story, it was me that turned around and missed the photo opportunity. It was me that made the smells in the plane. It was me that had the lips flapping in the eyes. Always be, I think if it's still self-deprecating, then I think will always work. If it's culturally based, I don't think it's going to go far outside your own culture because people just won't get it.
Okay. All right. We've got another question, and
Sure.
I hope this one is going to, I think this attendee will be able to identify himself or herself. We've got Toastmaster Aquilino Millar. Toastmaster Aquilino, if you can hear me, please go ahead and identify yourself and unmute. Calling once. We've got a lot of camera shy attendees here today, I guess.
Hello, David.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, by God's grace. I'm from Bohol, Philippines. My question is, how do you handle yourself when you happen to forget your maybe lines of your speech?
So how do you handle yourself if your mind does go blank and you can't remember the lines of your speech? In the business world, if you're talking about at a club meeting or at work and you forget the lines, then that's okay. We don't mind. Everyone on planet Earth has forgotten their lines. So just own it. And sort of say, what was I talking about? Oh, yes, that's right. Just own it. That'd be simple. In a speech competition, I think we both know that's different. You may have heard me answer the question before that during the 96 speech, my mind did go blank, but I just powered on with whatever I was saying. And luckily my brain clicked onto whatever needed to come next. And so I got away with it. But if I had stopped and thought, no, it wouldn't have worked. Still there?
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, David, and thank you for that question, Toastmaster Aquilino. All right, this one's coming in from Toastmaster Albert, who's joining from Malaysia, and he would like to ask a
hello,
question.
Albert.
Yes.
Thanks, Albert.
That's Albert from Malaysia. Albert says, if I may ask, I noticed that a hero's journey type of speeches have been winning speech contests. Would you agree that's the best approach?
At the moment, I would say your observations are absolutely correct. They are hero type stories. And the reason for that, I think, is because most movies that are made in the world are hero-based stories. We want to know that people can be champions. We want to know that the ordinary people can rise to an occasion, because if they can, then maybe I can. And that is a really good feel factor. And I think that's why we see a lot of Hollywood movies do that. That's why we love reading the books that tell us those sorts of stories. And that's why we love hearing stories about people who do get themselves into a situation where they do win against the odds. I would caution you, though. I try and make sure that you don't say the word I all the time, because if I tell you how I won the world championship and what I did, well, what I did, I, very quickly, people don't like us if we're I. Make sure there's a lot of you in there, or us, or we in your storytelling. And I think Mark Brown said as much. I think I can remember him saying something along those lines as well. Not sure, I'm pretty sure Kwong, or was it Kwong who said that? Make sure that, yeah, you're using the word you as opposed to I all the time. But it's going to be a hero story. It will take something extremely good and extremely different for it not to be, I think. And I don't know what that is.
All right, excellent. Well, I've been noticing, Toastmaster David, that you've been standing throughout the session. So I'm really sorry for keeping you standing entire session.
That's
I think
quite okay.
You are our first speaker that has given the entire presentation, and what you're still standing, still pumped up in that same inspiration and enthusiasm. Thank you so much for that. We have a question coming in from Toastmaster Rasul Maido. And Toastmaster Rasul Maido goes like this. He says, when would you deliver a speech about Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings?
I don't know.
No.
This is just a random question. He says, when would you deliver a speech about the Lord of the Rings? And he says, I love New Zealand.
Oh, because I say. Yes, we're very, very proud of our director, Sir Peter, who directed the Lord of the Rings trilogy and, of course, the follow-ups to it as well. We're very proud of our country. We love our country. And I'm sure all people say that of their own country. But yeah, when this whole COVID business is over, I would encourage you all to come across and enjoy some of our hospitality and some of our beautiful scenery. There's a wonderful place called Hobbiton, about 2 hours away from here, where they did the Lord of the Rings, part of the Hobbit village. It's wonderful. So we're very proud of our country and very grateful that Sir Peter chose New Zealand for the films.
Wonderful. This will be the last question for the day, and after which I will ask you for your closing remarks. And the question goes like this. Toastmaster David, how do you decide which feedback to listen to when you're rehearsing for a speech contest?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I've told the story several times, because when I was getting ready to go to the World Championships in '96, and I'm sure Kwong's done this as well, you go around to all the different clubs, don't you? You practice at different clubs because every opportunity is an opportunity to get better at your speech, and you get different feedback from the different members. And for goodness sakes, these people are Toastmasters, so they should know. So that's exactly what I did. I was doing a lot of that. And I went to one club one particular evening and I gave the speech. And a very clever Toastmaster came up to me and said, David, loved your speech, but you're speaking too fast. You need to slow down. I said, wow, thank you. Thank you very much. And he walked off, and the guy right behind him came up, another well-respected Toastmaster, and he said, David, fantastic speech, but you need to speed up. What? So 2 very respected Toastmasters, one telling me to slow down, one telling me to speed up. And so it does come down to the fact that you do ask for feedback. Not everyone's going to be right. They're going to have an opinion, and you'll thank them for their opinion. But there's something inside of you that will tell you what is the right thing to do, especially now that we can record ourselves so easily and listen back to ourselves. That's such a powerful thing. And just picking up on the fact that a lot of people are camera shy. A lot of people are camera shy here in New Zealand as well. And it's going to be a great opportunity for us as Toastmasters to get over that shyness. We have to, because we are the leaders.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much for that. I just noticed that I would like to acknowledge we have the presence of our past international president, Toastmaster Johnny Uwe, if I could pronounce your second name correctly. So Toastmaster Johnny Uwe, our past international president, is also attending your seminar today. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Johnny. All right, Toastmaster David, let us hear from you now, your closing remarks.
Okay, bye. No, sorry. Look, I touched on the closing earlier when I said that why did you join Toastmasters? Why do we join Toastmasters? Is it just so that we can be good speakers? Why do we want to win competitions? So we can say that we won a competition in Toastmasters? No, it's got to be more than that. You're here for a reason. You've got something to do, and you might not even know what that is yet, but you do know that you're going to need these skills. And I often tell people, there are some opportunities that are going to come in your life, and you're not going to take up on that opportunity. You'll pass up on it. And that's fine. Next week, there'll be another opportunity, or next month, another opportunity will come again. So it's all right. But there are those opportunities that will come once in our lifetimes, just the once. And we're either going to be ready for it or we won't be. And I would like to think that as big Toastmasters, we're doing everything we can to be ready for those opportunities, for us to stand up, to speak with confidence, and to lead with confidence. I don't know when, I don't know why. Maybe you do. But please, keep on doing what you're doing in Toastmasters. Keep on developing your presentation skills and your leadership skills and your communication skills, because sure as heck, the day is going to come where you're going to be faced with an opportunity and you're going to get very nervous, but you're going to tell yourself that you can, and you will, and you'll stand up and use what you've trained for, not to win a competition, but to make the world a better place. And that is a life well spent. So once again, thank you so much for your very kind and generous invitation to be part of this 10 years of wisdom. I feel honored to be part of some of these fantastic speakers. I mean, I look at Craig and Mark and Kwong and so many others that you've had, and I just think they're amazing at what they do and how freely they share their knowledge. And it's great to be associated with that caliber of people. So thank you also very much, Edwallen, for Toastmaster Edwallen, for the invitation. Thank you very much for your hospitality, Toastmaster Rafiq, and to all the people that have joined us in the webinar, in the Philippines, and wherever they are in the world on Facebook Live. It's been a pleasure to be able to spend the last 1 and a bit hours with you. So thank you very much. And finally, can I just say, Pa'alam. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster David. We love having you here, and we've extended our invitation to all our speakers, and I would like to do the same to you. We would love to have you physically in the Philippines so you enjoy your hospitality firsthand. Okay.
Thank you.
On that note, I would also like to very quickly, before we end our session and hand the control back to our Division K Director, a couple of lovely messages coming in for you. A lot of love from our audience for you, Toastmaster David. Toastmaster Aquilino says, amazing webinar, I enjoyed much. Thanks for the tips on public speaking. Toastmaster Pooja Chandak says, awesome, amazing webinar. And then you've got Toastmaster Mark Shikawa, great indeed, thank you very much. Toastmaster Lourdes Cruz, thank you very much. It was a great sharing experience. And then you've got Toastmaster Tess, thank you for the wonderful webinar, world-class speaker indeed. And you've got a lot of other wishes coming in, says, fabulous speech, world-class speaker you are, Toastmaster David. So lovely comments coming in by our attendees. They all loved you so much. And I'm telling you that Filipinos are very hospitable. You need to experience it firsthand, visiting our Philippines islands. All right, on that note, thank you very much to all of you. But do stay tuned, because today we do have one more speaker. And this will be the evening session at 7 p.m. And we will be joined by the runner-up from 2018, Toastmaster Sherry Su, will be joining us from China all the way. So please stay tuned for that segment of our great speakers Stay Home Skill Up series, which will continue today in the evening. I would now like to thank all of you, all our lovely attendees. We love you so much. And I was a bit disappointed I didn't get enough questions today. So I hope you will rush in more questions next time. And I would like to thank all of you for attending, and hand the control back to our Division K Director, Toastmaster Adrenaline. And while I do so, I would encourage all of you to turn on your cameras, because we will be having a picture moment soon. Okay, so please do so, turn on your cameras. And back to you, Toastmaster Adrenaline.
Okay, thank you so much, Toastmaster Rafiq. First of all, I want to say thank you, Toastmaster David, for gracing our event this morning. It's an honor and privilege for us to have you and listen to your wonderful presentation. You're really a master of voice, exaggeration, facial expression, and everything. Really, and humor as well. Thank you so much, Toastmaster David, for sharing us with that. So, fellow Toastmasters, thank you for joining us again for the 4th episode with our guest, Toastmaster David Nottage. Thank you for joining us. And of course, let's join. I invite you again, fellow Toastmaster, to join us tonight, 7 p.m. with Sherry Sue to our 5th episode. So again, fellow Toastmasters, thank you for always supporting our event, 10 years of Toastmasters Wisdom. So as Division K Director, I officially adjourn this webinar. So let's have a picture taking with our guest, Toastmaster David. Everyone
Yes,
is
Excellent.
on.
K Director, Toastmaster Adrenaline, just a very quick thing and
Yes.
for jumping in. The reason is I see a couple of comments where people are asking, how do they join this 7 p.m. webinar? To answer that question, it's the same link which goes live again
Yes.
7 p.m.
Yes.
Next.
Join us with the same meeting ID and same password. Okay. Rafik, can you take a picture?
Oh, yes, I can. Let me just have a grid
Yes.
view of our 47 attendees. Wow. And we've got a
Wow.
couple more on FB. Okay, well, let me just turn off my chat box so we can cover more ground. Of course, on the laptop. All right. Then we got screen 1. Let me just go to this. Screen 1. All right, just hold your positions or, or your lovely smiles. Just one moment. I'm trying to capture screen 1. Yes, screen 1 is done. Now we're going to screen 2. Screen 2. Let us see your smile. Okay, that is going screen 2. Now going screen 3. Do we have screen 3? No, we do not have screen 3. Thank you very much. Lovely smile. I see Toastmaster Mark having the biggest smile. Toastmaster Mark Shikawa, if I got your name correctly. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, I will say my goodbyes. So thank you very much, and I hope enjoy the next seminar.
Thank you, Toastmaster David.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
fellow Toastmasters.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.